Hello, denizens. Yes, I'm also diving into the Cracker Barrel rebranding debate. Why? What does a former network executive, former video game producer, and former comedian have to do with logos and corporate branding? Well, as it happens, I also happen to be a former graphic designer. I was a desktop publishing guru, consulted for Apple, been involved in design programs for global Fortune 500 companies. One of my typeface designs was actually picked up by Letraset. So I feel I'm well qualified to discuss this unusual social media blowup. Frankly, the real story is this blowup. There is no shortage of opinions by people who are suddenly branding experts who have never stepped into a Cracker Barrel. I have never availed myself of its services, but my biggest concern is, will Cracker Barrel still let us park our camper van overnight? Rather than diving in and giving the new logo a thumbs up or down and throwing CEO Julie Massino to the lions as part of the YouTube Roman Colosseum, I was curious about how we got here. First, let's address all you caterwaulers. That homespun junk store, as I like to call it, the house of useless shit, and the restaurant with southern charm that so many of you profess to love, is in deep trouble. It's clear that Cracker Barrel's business was indeed in decline before Julie Massino took over as CEO. Traffic and sales were dramatically down. Stock declined dramatically, nearly 37% in 2024 and approximately 70% over the past 5 years. This is before the rebrand. Complaints about food and service seem to go back many years. On platforms like Trustpilot, reviews reinforce the decline in both quality and service, reporting burnt pancakes, hair in meals, cold grits, and lack of manager response, describing it as an embarrassing failure of customer service, food quality, and respect. That doesn't sound very good. This is what CEO Julie Massino was headhunted into. According to Cracker Barrel's own presentation and board commentary, the company's leadership recruited and appointed world-class executive Julie Massino as president and CEO to carve new paths for growth as part of an effort to revitalize the business after pandemic-related challenges. Massino officially assumed the role of president and chief executive officer on November of 2023. I think we can all agree that Cracker Barrel had to change and change fast. The status quo was not an option. As much as people love the restaurant, there is no doubt that its core audience is aging out. Expanding the Cracker Barrel audience will be a huge challenge. Blanding the brand is perhaps not the best way to do it, but we're heading into what I call a sterile iPhone world. Once EVs become the beige transportation of choice, we might as well all just check out. It hasn't helped that eating out has become expensive overall, affecting Cracker Barrel's value proposition. The Barrel is also not a fast food joint like Taco Bell, where Massino came from. They are not the same thing. If your food and service sucks, ambience is not going to save the chain, and your general store filled with useless shit is really of interest only to women. Now, if it was a Bass Pro Shop, then that would be cool. But I'm not here to talk about the restaurant and store redesign, although from the few pictures I've seen, it now looks like a cafeteria. Anyway, back to the logo, which is my area of interest. Let's take a look at the one everyone claims to love. And it's not like it hasn't gone through changes. I mean, if we go back to 1969, it was just text. Then in 1977, it got the old white guy with elbow on a barrel treatment. I have no idea what drugs the designer of this logo was on, but this is the kind of logo a family member volunteers that can't be touched for decades because of that connection. As a matter of fact, we were up for a huge website job for $1 billion North American cold storage company. The president, a very nice Greek fellow, asked me what I thought of their website. Well, I told him that it didn't look like it belonged to $1 billion company. He paused and said, "My daughter did the website. If I changed it, my wife would kill me." This logo is what I call a multi-logo. We have an old guy, we have a barrel, we have the Cracker Barrel name in a bizarre assortment of upper and lower case fonts. I researched where the Cracker Barrel name came from. Well, to no one's surprise, there was a time crackers came in barrels, and the empty barrels were where townfolk gathered around to chaw the fat, as they say, I guess, in the South. Dan Evans, a Shell oil salesman, wanted to build a roadside restaurant that also sold goods to attract travelers on interstate highways. He borrowed imagery and ambiance from 19th century and 20th century Southern general stores, rocking chairs out front, pot-belly stoves, and checkerboards inside. Walls covered with vintage advertising and antiques, a retail section selling nostalgic items, candy, jams, and country-style decor. One of the challenges Cracker Barrel has now is that it's no longer a familiar archetype. Then again, my daughter's favorite attraction at Disney World was the Country Bear Jamboree. She had absolutely no connection to it culturally or historically. We went 4 times. Is it a problem that Cracker Barrel is a land that time forgot? The Hard Rock Cafe still exists, and most kids have no idea what rock is. Sorry, getting back to the logo. So now we know its provenance. Another aspect or feature of a logo are its colors. Here we have a pumpkin orange and a brown. You have to understand that just the colors alone could be what makes a logo unique. So we're up to at least 4 or 5 identifying features. There is the jelly bean background, and then the K in cracker is inexplicably connected to the R in barrel. There are just too many things going on here. But then again, isn't that what the place is all about? In 2006, the brown text and line work was changed to black, much more distinct, but not much of a change. Then, in 2015, they made the daring move of actually making all the lowercase letters lowercase. I'm sure patrons attacked the restaurant with pitchforks after that. And only the K had that weird extender. And now we have this. It smells of millions of dollars in focus groups. If we look at other recent blandings of logos like Yves Saint Laurent, who is no longer Yves, Balenciaga, wow, how much did they pay for that one? Burberry, what's wrong with serif? Berluti is, all caps, the latest fashion trend. Balmain, did you hire the Balenciaga designer? Jaguar at least looks like a logo of sorts. The mere fact that Cracker Barrel kept its typeface, I mean, that's a shock. Understand that Massino and Company would have been provided hundreds of options and variations. Sometimes with so many decision makers involved, the least offensive logo is what gets picked. Logos need to inherit some of its past. The typeface survived, and the background is somewhat reminiscent of a barrel. Isn't that enough? But I think Massino and her fart catchers wanted to concentrate on just the type style, not the barrel part, which in logo land is enough of an identifier. People hate change. I'll bet more people are promoting that they will never go to CB again than ever went there. The offense that everyone is displaying online is kind of funny. Without judging the logo, it is honestly far more flexible. You can stick it on top of one of those giant poles out on the highway I've seen Buc-ee's use and see it miles away. It's emphasizing the most important part of the old logo, the name and type style. It's drastic but recognizable. It's become a cause celeb for the right, it seems. I mean, who really cares? The chain has far bigger issues such as quality, price, and service. I think the bland, updated interior design is a far bigger concern. Many of us have now seen Messino on TV explaining the new branding, and she is unfortunately a terrible spokesperson. Her chirpy corpse speak was not helpful, and neither were those designer glasses. Robbie Starbuck, that anti-DEI crusader, has accused Messino of woking and DEIing Cracker Barrel, although it was actively involved with the Wi-Fi Password People initiatives back in 2018. That year, they created a limited edition Rainbow Pride rocker. Bet they sold tons of those in the store. Most Cracker Barrel restaurants are concentrated in the southeastern and midwestern United States, reflecting the brand's southern roots and highway travel focus. Has Messino Heiner-scheided CB? She was open in acknowledging the company's problems. We're just not as relevant as we once were. Some of our recipes and processes haven't evolved in decades. And she was right in both cases. And that should be the story. Really, this is more a PR disaster than a logo design disaster, I think. If I was out stumping for Cracker Barrel, I would brush off the design update by saying, it's a small part of a bigger plan to bring value, quality, and service back to the barrel. So that's what I would have promoted. People don't eat logos. One of the most important lessons I learned out in Corpland is that it is often more important to manage expectations, which Messino has done badly here. Maybe more telling is the change in Cracker Barrel's iconic time-wasting peg game, which used to have snarky labels like 1 peg left, genius, 2 pegs left, pretty smart, 3 pegs left, dumb, 4 or more pegs, ignoramus, spelt M-O-O-S-E. Now it's 1 peg left, you're a genius, 2 pegs left, rocking the chair but not the game, 3 or more, no need to be embarrassed, try again. I think this is more of a lens into the soul of the company than anything else. What a bunch of fun suckers. Hate to say it, but only a woman would make that change. Everything these days is getting sterilized and less fun. I was working with Apple back when they changed their logo from the colorful striped version to just the flat version, and it was not well received at the time. It certainly hurt their stock price. The only sane thing anyone in their right mind can say about this Cracker Barrel brand change is, we shall see. Notwithstanding the millions of branding experts who have suddenly appeared on the socials. Till next time, Denny Zens, did you get that? See what I did there? Be seeing you.